I, Banus Roach Dirhan, King of Dirhan, declare a divorce. You, Arnoa Saliad Casion, are no longer Queen of Dirhan. There is no place for you in the palace from now on. Therefore, leave the capital and return to your ancestral home. Only one old carriage will be prepared for this purpose, and even if you rush to beg His Majesty the Emperor, you still can't stay in the court. However, you are his sister after all, so he may show you mercy. King Dirhan threw the divorce document on his already ex-wife's head. Goodness, riding in a little old carriage! I seem to get motion sickness from the mere creak of it. Lalisa Estia approached King Dirhan and took him under her arm. This girl was the daughter of a rich nobleman, Count Estia, and Queen Arnoa's maid of honor. Even though not related to the ruling family, Lalisa had lived in the palace as a companion for a long time. She was a household name as the mistress of King Banus Dirhan. Lalisa wore a tiara on her head, which was personally given to her by King Banus. This piece of jewelry was made of silver. The black diamond in the middle was darker than the depths of the sea and brighter than the starry sky. It was paired with the stone in Binus's crown. The black diamond was Arnoa's wedding dowry. None of the nobles or common folk could have predicted that the king's marriage would fall apart so soon. The subjects of the kingdom loved their one and only princess, Arnoa Saliad Caishian. It's a pity the divorce happened in such a humiliating way. After all, my lineage is more noble than his, Arnoa thought wistfully. Some nobles of the kingdom perceived Arnoa as just a princess whose opinion meant nothing. They believed that even members of the noble imperial family should bow their heads before the king of Dirhan. Arnoa knew that from now on, the nobles would see her as an ordinary woman to be divorced from. Even in the imperial family, such a divorce was a real disgrace. The king's dislike for his consort was a well-known fact. However, the subjects of the kingdom thought that he would still avoid divorce for the good of the royal family. This was not surprising, since Arnoa was the sister of Emperor Luciano, the ruler of the continent. Since Arnoa was also the niece of Duke Rickle, the ruler of the southern part of the lands, marrying her was a real salvation for the reputation of King Dirhan, the ruler of a small vassal state. Binus had been married to Arnoa for only 2 years. He did not love his spouse. For many years, his heart belonged to his mistress Lalisa. At some point, Lalisa was no longer satisfied with her role, and then she wished for the title of queen. Of course, Binus did not immediately agree to this, but there were several facts that contributed to the dissolution of his marriage to Arnoa. One evening, Lalisa told King Binus of her pregnancies. This prompted Banus to expedite the divorce proceedings. Arnoa was tearing in metal. She scandalized without end. After a while, the girl began to be perceived as the most real villain. Banus was sure that if he divorced his eccentric wife, his relationship with the emperor will not deteriorate. One day, in the middle of the night, a messenger from the emperor appeared to the king. It was a wizard who looked like an icy but still beautiful statue. He stated that the emperor had no objection to the divorce of King Binus and his wife Arnoa. In these 2 years, the kingdom has proven its loyalty to the empire. The princess's dowry is nothing compared to the wealth of the imperial family. It would be unwise to ruin the relationship between the 2 states over some nonsense, said the wizard. From the wizard's words, Binus realized that Arnoa would not be able to take back his dowry. All the jewels would stay with him. The king could part with his consort without any loss. It's time to end it. I didn't want to do this at first, but if you hadn't interfered in my life, this wouldn't have happened, Banus exclaimed. At the beginning of their married life, Binus still wanted to build a relationship with his wife, but she turned out to be a rather cold girl. The king wished that she would pay attention to him and flirt with him, but Arnoa did not do any of that. If she had behaved completely differently, perhaps we would have actually become a real couple. She arrogantly ignored me, thinking that paying attention to the king of a small state was beneath her dignity, thought Binus, looking at his former consort. You were stubborn to the very end. I really hope I never see your face again. Go back to your former place, King Diran said in a loud voice. A divorce, then, mumbled Arnoa, picking up the certificate of divorce from the floor. Well, now that you and I are divorced, then I don't need to be polite anymore. As of this moment, you are no longer my husband. Has this divorce been a real blow to you? You're acting like a crazy person right now, said Binas. Thank you for finally ending this marriage. Even though we've only been with you for 2 years, I've been through a lot during my marriage. I put up with you and all the people around you. This is exactly the outcome I was hoping for. Arnoa replied. How dare you say such a thing? The king was indignant. I'm sorry, but of us of your own, you are the one who doesn't understand what's going on, Binas. Belle, deliver a message to the king from the imperial palace, asked Arnoa. Suddenly, a white mist filled the throne room. When it cleared, a man with skin as white as snow and hair as black as tar appeared. His eyes were an unusual silver-gray color. The man had a perfect face, as if molded by a god. Binas recognized him. It was the wizard who had come to him a few nights ago. And what's the Emperor's envoy doing here? Binas wondered. I was summoned, so I came. That is my duty. Did you not hear the Emperor call out to me? Said the wizard. I don't know if you know that Emperor Luciano Caishion is dead. As an envoy of the imperial family, I came here to deliver the certificate of his death. But His Majesty was in perfect health. Why did he die so suddenly? Binas exclaimed. The ruler of the continent and master of the empire was Emperor Luciano Caishion. Unfortunately, he had no direct heir. Upon his death, the throne could pass to the second prince Arian Caishion or his sister Arnoa Caishion. Binas had high hopes that Arian would become the new emperor, but the wizard dashed all his hopes. He said that the emperor's brother was also dead. The emperor and his brother had been poisoned a few days ago. What kind of nonsense are you talking about? What insolence towards His Majesty Luciano! In an angry tone, the astonished Binas shouted, The emperor's death certificate is true as it was delivered personally by the imperial envoy, Arnoa said in a calm voice. That's impossible. And if it is true after all, then how should I go about it now? The situation is so unexpected that I couldn't even imagine it. I mean, I know for a fact that the emperor had no major conflicts or poor health. Binas thought. If the emperor and his brother died, then who will ascend the throne? Binas asked. Since neither Luciano nor Arian had children, the throne will pass to the next in line. According to your marriage contract, the husband inherits half of what the wife inherits. It's not just property, but title as well. The wizard began to explain. So the original heir would have to be you. That can't be. Binas marveled. What he heard threw him into the most genuine shock. If you had waited another day, you would have gotten the entire continent. Unfortunately, you divorced before His Majesty's death was announced. For that reason, the next emperor will be another person, said the wizard. The new mistress of the continent is Arnoa Caishion, and if I were you, I would rather bow my head to her. Huh. Did you hear that, Binas? Why don't you pay your respects to the new empress? Arnoa asked her former consort, laughing loudly. What nonsense! How can you be empress? You were just recently the queen of Dirhan, Binas exclaimed. You heard it all perfectly well yourself. Just now, according to the messenger's words, I became the new empress of the continent. So why are you ignoring my words? That said, if you don't want to pay your respects to me, you don't have to, said Arnoa. The dowry I brought to Dirhan was a carriage filled to the brim with gold. Do I remember correctly? I want to take it away. Prepare it at once. As you said, I'll be heading home before this day is over. What's even going on now? Have I ever seen Arnoa with such a cold expression on her face? Binas thought to himself fearfully. Why are you frozen? Didn't you hear what I said to you? You didn't think that you would keep my dowry for yourself in the divorce, did you? Arnoa asked her ex-husband. But after all, the Emperor's envoy told me that I could keep nothing back, that the imperial family wouldn't bother over such a small thing, Binus exclaimed. You still don't get the gist of what was said? If you have a head, then after the divorce you should behave more sensibly, said the wizard. Binus felt his legs go under. He sank to the floor exhaustedly. I give you an hour. Fill the carriage with gold in that time. If the state treasury doesn't have enough, you can peel the gilding off the walls and roof of this palace, said Arnoa. By the way, give back my mother's black diamonds that are in your crown and your mistress's tiara. Belle, you know what needs to be done yourself, said the newly crowned empress to the wizard. The wizard walked over to Lalisa and yanked the tiara off her head. He then yanked the crown off Banus's head. Although you're a wizard, you're only an emissary of the Emperor. Right now, you've gone too far. You shouldn't have treated the Dirhan kingdom like this, Banus shouted. What simplicity! You gave your mistress a gem that your wife gave you as a dowry. Do you have the nerve to make such a fuss? Asked the wizard. It is you who should not behave like that. The wizard smashed Banus's crown and Lalisa's tiara against the edge of the marble pedestal. The black diamonds fell to the floor with a clinking sound. As you requested, Your Majesty, here are your diamonds. The wizard placed the diamonds in Arnoa's hand. Belle, you did well. You did the right thing. Now let's get out of here. I don't want to see these people anymore. I need to look around my domain. I'm in a simply wonderful mood today. Arnoa gently stroked the wizard's face. After the demise of the previous emperor, Luciano, who had been Arnoa's older brother, had imprisoned her in a tower. When the girl turned 18, Luciano gave her in marriage to King Dirhan. Banus was extremely happy when he received a good dowry. Arnoa's marriage to King Dirhan was completely satisfactory. She finally got the freedom she'd been deprived of while locked in the tower. While married to King Dirhan, Arnoa only had to see him once a week and endure the insults thrown in his face. Immediately after the wedding, Arnoa was sent a maid of honor. The girl knew that Lalisa was the king's first love. Arnoa decided to keep her husband's mistress close to her. Arnoa knew that some nobles condemned her for her weakness. She tolerated her husband's mistress and did nothing. Even on the first wedding night, the king left his consort and went to Lalisa. Sometimes Arnoa heard her husband discussing her with other nobles. He would say that she was not distinguished by anything special. He also ridiculed her intelligence and appearance. Arnoa had long been used to this attitude, for her older brother Luciano had hated her since she was born. Perhaps it was because the lineage of Arnoa's mother, Anastasia, was much stronger than his. The previous emperor, Arnoa's father, was weak in health and died before the girl came of age. After the emperor's death, Arnoa had to move to the estate of his mother's relatives and keep quiet. However, as soon as Luciano ascended the throne, he immediately seized his sister and imprisoned her in the tower. In order not to return to the tower, Arnoa was willing to tolerate her husband's disgusting behavior. Arnoa could not stand it when Banus gave his mistress a tiara adorned with her mother's black diamond. This diamond had been given to Anastasia by Arnoa's father when they were young. This gemstone was popular in social circles. When Arnoa first saw the tiara on Lalisa's head, she felt indescribable anger. In turn, when Count Estea saw his daughter with the famous tiara on her head, he had the thought of making his daughter a queen. From that day on, he began to think of ways to get rid of Queen Arnoa. As soon as King Binus put the tiara on his mistress's head, Arnoa's life became hell. Attempts on her life began. Poison was added to Arnoa's food. Soldiers with daggers sneaked into her room intending to kill her. Arnoa was devastated to realize that the royal palace was no longer any different from the tower she had spent years in. Arnoa just wanted to survive. She didn't need anything else. Walking into her bedroom one day, Arnoa saw a snow leopard sleeping. That's crazy. Why is a predator sleeping in my room? Is this a new method of assassination performed by the Count? The last assassin failed and was caught, so he decided to send a wild beast. Surprised, the girl thought. Even though this leopard inspires fear, it looks pretty cute. Suddenly, the leopard rose up and headed straight for the girl. He growled softly. The leopard pounced on the girl, knocking her to the floor. Is this really how I'm going to die? Ran through Aroa's mind. A moment later, the leopard transformed into a dark-haired man. Aroa guessed that the man in front of her was a wizard. He had a high enough rank to be able to transform into another living creature. But what was he doing here? Wizards never left Perhen's territory. Answer me. Are you the Aroa Saliad Caesian? Asked the wizard. Are they killed? My brothers are dead. How did this even happen? Exclaimed Aroa, studying the death certificate. Aroa knew that once she was married, she obeyed only her husband. All the titles she has and will have belonged to him too. Aroa really didn't want her husband to become emperor. The girl guessed that then her life would become a living hell. You and your older brother weren't close? Why, I ask, it's just that you seem more angry than upset, noted the wizard. I'd like to get my present, said Aroa. I'm supposed to come to you with a gift? You mean bring something as a token of comfort? Inquired the wizard. That's actually the custom. Oh well, forget it, replied Aroa. Answer me, why did you come here? I know that wizards never do anything for nothing. A good man should fulfill his friend's requests in any way he can, replied the wizard. Aroa had never thought of wizards as good. To get anything from them, at least, you had to pay or make a bet. You made a bet, am I right? Aroa asked. The girl knew about bargaining with wizards. If someone called a wizard's full name and asked for a wager, the wizard was obligated to agree. At first glance, it seemed like a fairly simple rule, but wizards' names were very long and confusing. Many people couldn't pronounce the name correctly, so they lost everything or died altogether. But who made the bet with you and why? That person managed to pronounce your name after all. Since you brought the report of the emperor's death, you are the emperor's envoy. Usually, the envoy is the ruler of the Mage Tower, mumbled Aroa. You're a savvy one after all, and since the emperor is dead, I should come to his relatives with a message. And where is your husband now? I must tell him what has happened as well. It is my duty, said the wizard. What if I ask you for something? Asked Aroa. You yourself know very well that wizards don't work for nothing, reminded the girl the wizard. I want to make a wager with you, Belkarianas Askal Rupaleshan Perhen Nerdy. I'll call you Belle for short, said the girl. Ah, that damn Anakin, grumbled the wizard. So, Belle, I don't want my husband to sit on the throne, so you're going to help me prevent that. If I win the bet, I'll get a divorce and become empress, the girl exclaimed. Belle was the 28th ruler of the Tower of Wizards and the master of the territory of Perhen. He was the most powerful wizard in history, the son of the great sorceress Amaryllis. Formally, the wizards are vassals of the empire, but they rarely showed themselves. They settled in territory that not even the emperor dared to control. They were devoted to their duty as envoys and had been fulfilling it since ancient times. Aroa knew very little about the master of the magic tower. There were mixed rumors about him. It was known that he had entered the academy when he was 15 years old. In just a year, he had taken courses in all disciplines. Aroa also knew that Belle had abandoned his studies and returned to the city only a few years later. He challenged the 27th ruler of the Tower of Wizards to a duel and won the duel to take his title. Do you even know what I want in return? Doesn't that scare you? Would you dare to make a wager with me? The wizard asked the girl. If you help me, I will give you the stone of my soul, replied Aroa. What are you talking about now? Do you even understand how it's mined? Belle wondered. Of course I know about it. One must invest half the allotted years in the creation of the stone. It can't be taken away. The stone can only be obtained with a person's voluntary consent, replied the girl. Soul stones have magical properties. The strongest ones are associated with the name of the imperial family. Wizards use these stones as magical items. So you even know the purpose and price? I want to warn you that you can't kill the king of these lands and make you an empress, said Belle. The messenger delivering the death certificate of the emperor is under a spell. He cannot kill the ruler, lie to him, or harm him with magic. I cannot honor this request. Our wager will not be honored. But there is no clearly defined time frame for when you must announce the emperor's death. Am I right? Aroa clarified. That's true, but this situation is tiring me, so I want to deal with all of this as soon as possible. If we procrastinate too much, the news of the emperor's demise will crawl out from elsewhere. You don't want to hit the dirt, do you? Belle asked. Just give me a couple weeks. Don't inform anyone of the emperor's death. In that time, I will divorce my husband. If he and I separate, the throne will be mine, said Aroa. About my wager. If I divorce my husband in the allotted 2 weeks, then I win, and if I don't, then I will give you half of my life. If I win, then you will be the one to declare me empress. For our wager to take place, you must put away the notice of the death of the emperor and my younger brother, and if you do want to take my soul stone, you will help me live to see the divorce. Also, you must turn a blind eye to the things I will do. It sounds like you want to involve me in some sort of adventure. Was it all just to encourage me to help you in the end? Belle asked. The girl answered him nothing, only smiled sweetly. Binus began to encourage performances that made Aroa look out of place. The future of the art world is rather bleak. And what's with all this indecent behavior? Was it possible to put on a play making me look bad? And why should I applaud encouraging it? Thought Aroa, watching what was happening on stage. On top of that damn Count Estia is here. He is frantic to make one of his daughters a queen. Will this circus never end? Aroa heard whispering behind her. 2 ladies were discussing the play. It turned out that the main character was played by the popular actor Rick Tavian. The director of the play was Count Estea's illegitimate daughter, Lalisa Estea. After the performance, Binus thanked the actors for their well-played roles. Hey, Queen, whose role did you like the most? How about we try to follow the Queen's lines from the play? I think that would be a lot of fun, said Binus to his consort. Aroa could barely restrain herself from answering her husband with rudeness. The play made her look like a complete fool who loves the king madly and talks about it all the time. But since His Majesty insists, who am I to cross him? I want to play the part with the lead actor, said Aroa, pulling a joyful smile on her face. She asked the lead actor, Rick, to come up to her. I was told that you are the most handsome man in Dirhan. You really turned out to be just as people described you, said Aroa in a low, chesty voice. She placed her hand on the actor's chest. And our queen turns out to be an excellent actress, the court ladies exclaimed. Do you think, Your Majesty, I have succeeded in my role? Asked Aroa to her husband. Aroa took the ring off her finger and put it on the little finger of the actor. Think of this ring as the heart of a queen, asked Aroa. Purple is the color of royalty. It cannot be worn by anyone outside the ruling family. Why did she give him a ring? Binus thought to himself in surprise. Has she really lost her mind? How can she give a ring with a purple stone to an ordinary commoner? Quickly remove that ring, ordered Binus to the actor. I apologize, Your Majesty, shouted the actor, but it didn't save him. The guards grabbed the actor under his arms and dragged him to the dungeon. Binus looked angrily at his consort. He allows himself to laugh at others, but reacts very aggressively if they laugh at him. But even if the king's mood is ruined, he still has to behave with dignity. Aroa thought. The most handsome man of Dirhan, the color purple suits him perfectly, just like the king. Read Binus. How dare they write such a thing? Shouted Binus, tossing the newspaper aside. I don't understand why you're so nervous at all. You're the one who asked me to read the acting lines. I did exactly as you asked, Aroa remarked. I have a sudden headache, and I would advise you to think again about what it means to be a queen and to live up to it. You grew up in the imperial palace. You should know the basic rules of decorum, said Binus to his consort. Of course I remember the rules of etiquette. How could I forget that? And by the way, you told me that we will have breakfast just the 2 of us. Why is Lalisa sitting at the table then? Aroa asked in an angry tone. Binus and Lalisa looked at the girl in surprise. She had never allowed herself such a thing before. "Don't you dare say anything offensive in front of Lalisa!" shouted Binus, loudly slapping his palm on the table. "Your Majesty, apparently the Queen is very sensitive today. Don't pay any attention to her words. Let's continue eating breakfast together." Lalisa hastened to calm the angry king. "Today, the cook has done his best. There are so many different dishes on the table. Let me feed you." "Lalisa, you look marvelous. It's great that I met you once," Binus exclaimed. Lalisa looked at the queen with a sidelong glance. The girl decided that she was the one who had won this round. "Well then, I'll leave you. I won't get in the way." Arnoa got up from the table and went to her room. When Arnoa was very young, her mother had advised her to choose one loyal servant and invest everything she had in him. The person she chose should be very useful and most intelligent. The person you put everything into may one day save your life. For the weak, it's the only way to keep someone on your side, said Anastasia to her daughter shortly before her death. And I believe my mother was right at that moment. Arnoa finished her story. "Is that why you chose Dr. Rudez?" Binus clarified. Since Arnoa had enemies around her all the time, it was extremely hard for her to choose the right person for her. She needed someone who could help her avoid poisoning, who could heal her wounds. So Arnoa turned her attention to Dr. Rudez. For several months, Arnoa watched Dr. Rudez closely. The girl was from a poor family and needed money badly. She was also characterized by a rather sharp mind. Arnoa learned that Dr. Rudez's mother had been ill for many years with a serious illness. Arnoa decided to bribe the girl. It was Dr. Rudez who created a contraceptive that Arnoa added to Lalisa's food. This product worked perfectly, so Arnoa stopped worrying that her husband's mistress could get pregnant. For Arnoa's plan to work, she had to ask Dr. Rudez for another remedy that would cause Lalisa to show symptoms of pregnancy. "You underestimate my doctor for nothing. That girl is the truest genius. It's only because of her that I've lived to this point. She gave me several times to drink after poisoning me," said Arnoa to the wizard. "Lalisa probably still doesn't understand why she never managed to poison me." "I need to get away for a while," said Belle, rising from the table. The wizard ran to the window, climbed up on the sill, and jumped down. "That man is the truest cat. He comes and goes as he pleases," mumbled Arnoa. "My patience is wearing thin. Stop making a circus out of this place," said Belle in an angry tone. Hearing this, Luca immediately took on human form. "Why are you talking to me like that? It's been a long time since we've seen each other, and all you do is grumble." "Aren't you happy to see me?" Luca asked. "It's only been 2 days since the last time we met," reminded Belle. Luca answered him that those 2 days had been the longest of his life. "Quickly report what you managed to find out," demanded Belle. "A message has come from Perchin. This time a boy of the Lofen family has shown symptoms," narrated Luca. "That's what I've already heard. Is there anything else?" asked Belle. "At the moment, not yet. By the way, Mr. Belcarianas, are you sure everything will be all right? 4 mercenaries entered the palace recently," said Luca. Arnoa heard some noise. Suddenly, several mercenaries rushed into the room. Arnoa dropped the book from her hands. Blood splattered in all directions. "Where do the guards look? The guards are just terrible at their job," Belle muttered. Arnoa froze in place. She hadn't expected to get help from a wizard. "Die!" shouted the mercenaries and threw on Belle. A few seconds later, the mercenaries fell dead to the floor. Belle was sure the mercenaries knew that this evening the guards would be performing their duties behind their sleeves. It had likely been long planned. "Are you hurt?" asked Belle, dropping to one knee in front of the girl. "It's nothing. Dr. Rudez will get here tomorrow and fix it," said Arnoa, looking at her injured palm. "Don't move," asked Belle. He used his magic to heal the girl's hand. "If I understand correctly, these men were sent by Count Estea," clarified Belle to the girl. She nodded silently. "So the Count wants to make his daughter queen. Doesn't the fact that he's alive complicate the situation? This problem could have been easily solved by the death of the king?" Belle asked. "No, that doesn't solve the problem. After Binus dies, the throne will pass to his nephew. If we don't divorce before his death, I will forever remain Queen Dowager. Aroa replied. And I forbid you to kill anyone while our wager is in effect. Just do as I tell you. Good! Then I have one demand of you as well. Bel reached into his breast pocket and pulled out a chain with a large yellow stone hanging from it. This stone is called a cat's eye. There's a special magic that applies to this artifact. It is very dangerous. The one wearing it can see what is going on around another person with the same pendant. Bel explained. Wear this stone without taking it off. Bel put the chain around the girl's neck. Aroa heard a knock on the door. Is it the guards finally showing up, or who? Bel asked. Hurry up and hide or transform. You can't be seen, exclaimed Aroa. Excited guards rushed into the queen's room. We have discovered signs of intruders and have come to see if you are all right, explained the head of the guards. Entering the room, he hoped to find a dead queen. Surprisingly, the girl was alive. I'm perfectly fine, despite you not doing your job properly, grumbled Aroa. A noise was heard in the far corner of the room. The guards grabbed their swords. A large, fluffy cat stepped into the center of the room. Roxanne, please save me, shouted the deputy commander. You know that Kesman's demands are small, and I have no desire to kill your fiancé. I suggest we think over the terms of our peace treaty again, shouted the mercenary who held a dagger at the deputy's neck. Roxanne pretended to consider the mercenary's proposal. After a little thought, Roxanne took her bow and arrow and fired. The arrow hit the deputy commander's neck. Why did she kill her fiancé? The mercenaries wondered. Kill them all, Roxanne ordered. Did they really think we would accept the peace treaty they offered? Asked Archduke Acilier, Roxanne's father. Kesman's men are as foolish as he is, father. And by the way, pick me a normal groom next time, asked Roxanne. Does any fiancé out there really matter? We have a far more important purpose, said the Archduke to his daughter. Father, what about the murder of the Emperor? I want to confess to you that our plan failed. Luciano's death was planned, but the problem is that Arian died as well. Who knew that idiot would taste the poisoned food? Our plan to make Arian a puppet failed, replied the Archduke. How could you run everything so foolishly? Why did you allow him to die with his brother? Was it so hard to let that empty-headed man live? Screamed Roxanne, jumping up from her seat. Don't worry about that. One small mishap can't ruin our plan. Only the puppet sitting in the Emperor's seat has changed, so there's no reason to worry. In a calm voice, the Archduke replied. So, the throne will pass to the King of Dirhan, Roxanne clarified. That is correct. Everyone knows that exactly 2 years ago, Princess Roxana relinquished all powers. She will now be Empress on paper only. The throne will go to her husband, replied the Archduke. Remember, my dear daughter, it is you who is worthy to become Empress. I would like to remind you that the Acilier bloodline was originally superior to the direct descendants of the imperial family. I will by all means put you on the throne that I could not obtain myself. Even if the Magic Tower Master is late with the news, the King of Dirhan will know about it at most in a few days. When he becomes emperor, I will show him who really holds the power in the empire, said Roxanne. Lady Dana, is it true what they say that the queen has fallen in love with the famous actor Rick Ravier? It is rumored that she even gave him a ring, a symbol of the royal Dirhan family, said Lady Daphne. It seems that this is the real truth. People watching the scene say that the queen's eternally haughty expression suddenly became very passionate. It was as if she was craving Rick's embrace. She was definitely in love with him, Lady Dana exclaimed. Yet what salacious rumors are flying around the court, Lalisa remarked. It seems Her Majesty the Queen still doesn't know how to behave in this country. We, as her maid of honor, should teach the Queen some manners. And I see you're having a good time without me, said Aroa as she approached the table. Greetings, Your Majesty, Lady Dana and Lady Daphne exclaimed. They rose from their seats and bowed before the Queen. Lalisa remained seated. You have come, Your Majesty. You didn't announce your visit in advance, and you also came unaccompanied. What is the matter? Asked Lalisa. I received an invitation from you, so I came here. I would like to point out that the door to the greenhouse was shut tight, replied Aroa. You should have been accompanied by someone of lower status. Aren't you afraid of being scolded? Lalisa inquired. I couldn't take anyone of lower status with me because all those people are currently here, said Aroa and sat down on a vacant chair. This was not the first time the scene had played out. Lalisa would invite the queen to a tea party as if she cared for her, and then spend hours looking at her flaws or treating her to strange food. Lalisa also liked to give the queen gaudy outfits and then mock her. By the way, Your Highness, why aren't you wearing that dress I gave you a few days ago? I chose it with all my heart. Didn't you like it? Lalisa asked. I didn't want to wear it. I guessed it a long time ago, but now I know for sure you have pretty terrible taste. One can tell just by looking at your outfits, though, Aroa replied. Well, let's see what kind of garbage you'll be feeding me today. By the way, what are the servants doing at the moment? Why isn't anyone pouring my tea? Don't be angry with us, Your Majesty. You will feel better if you drink this fragrant tea. Lady Daphne poured the tea into the queen's cup. Aroa noted to herself that the tea in the cup had a rather strange color. The girl guessed that something had been added to it. Aroa brought the teacup to her nose and inhaled its aroma. The drink was quite spicy. I hope the tea was to your liking. Not only does it have a pleasant aroma, but it also has a sweet aftertaste, said Lady Daphne. If you liked the drink so much, I find it awful. I seem to have rather strange taste preferences, replied Aroa. Then you've got it all figured out. And I was beginning to think you had a problem with discernment. I would like to point out that His Majesty the King favors intelligent women, said Lalisa. My precious maid of honor is so concerned about me. I should repay her properly. Aroa rose from her seat and picked up a cup of tea and walked over to Lalisa. Drink this tea. It will be my reward to you as chief maid of honor. Aroa squeezed Lalisa's chin until it hurt. Aroa opened Lalisa's mouth and poured the contents of her cup into it. Pushing the queen away from her, Lalisa coughed loudly. How that tea stings! Screamed the girl. Her face was covered in sweat. Lalisa, is this tea not to your liking as well? Aroa asked in a harmless voice. What the hell is going on here? Screamed Countess Estea, who burst into the greenhouse. My sweet daughter, what has that woman done to you? Asked the countess, clutching a crying Lalisa to her chest. Your Majesty, why did you make my daughter drink this disgusting tea? How can you be so cruel? This is an unacceptable act for a member of the royal family. Whoever made the mistake must surely be punished. Well, Your Majesty, please extend your arms. Is she at it again? How much longer? Aroa thought wistfully. The countess swung her fan. I've had enough of this. Aroa thought and pulled her hands away. The countess slapped the fan painfully on her palm. Letting the fan out of her hands, the countess shouted loudly. You should have been more careful. Looks like you slightly miscalculated your strength, said Aroa with a loud laugh. Your Majesty, you deliberately took your hands away. It seems like you never learned anything in these past 2 years, exclaimed the countess. Why not? I have managed to memorize some of your lessons after all. If I remember correctly, the queen can manage the internal affairs of the house. You said she has the right to hire and fire workers, Aroa replied. What are you talking about? This is not the time to bring it up. I will report the matter to your husband immediately, threatened the countess. You will not be able to do that, as you have already been dismissed. You have nothing more to do with my husband. I have decided that I will no longer keep any more useless laborers in the house, said Aroa. Upon examining the ledgers, I noticed that you were receiving quite a large salary. You yourself have just noticed that in the past 2 years, you have failed to teach me anything. If you had taught me properly, I would not have been so cruel. I believe that a teacher should lead his student by setting an example by his behavior. So I'll just finish what I started and go about my business. Lalisa, that was a good tea party. I enjoyed it. Aroa picked up a cup of tea from the table and poured its contents over the girl's head. Is this definitely the queen we know? Lady Dana whispered in surprise. Belle decided to observe Aroa with his pendant. He saw what had happened at the tea party. That woman is amusing to watch. And why did she put up with her husband with that temper for so long? Mumbled Belle. You mean the queen doesn't tolerate anything else? Clarified Luca. That woman has some kind of plan. I like that she started acting more honest with herself, replied Belle. Lalisa hadn't stopped crying for hours. Binus didn't know how to comfort his beloved. Your Majesty, are you not angry? Even after hearing what the queen did to me? Sobbing tears asked Lalisa. Of course I'm angry, the king assured the girl. Then why don't you kick your consort out right now? Have your feelings for me grown cold? Inquired Lalisa. That's not the case at all. Didn't I tell you that you are my first and last love? But you know very well that you can't just divorce the empire. We need to be more subtle. Know that she'll pay in full soon enough, Binus promised. At the upcoming festival, I will make that clear. I will show her what happens if she touches you or goes against me. She will realize the price of her mistakes. Arnoa had to put on the dress Lalisa had brought her. As she entered the banquet hall, she heard judgmental whispers around her. The court ladies were whispering that the dress in question had been popular a few years ago. Arnoa knew that this was her husband's way of deciding to punish her. A round of applause for the most beautiful couple, shouted the audience as soon as the first tune died down. You are definitely my destiny. I really enjoy dancing with you, said Binus to his beloved. Greetings, your majesty. Arnoa bowed before the king. This dress suits you well. It is austere as befits a queen. It looks bulky, something like it was worn by my great-aunt. By the way, those dark purple bows really suit you, said the king to his consort. I care absolutely nothing for what you say. The important thing is that Belle is watching what's going on. Arnoa thought tightly, clutching the stone in her hands. A few days before the festival, Belle had condemned the girl for choosing to wear such an old-fashioned dress. This is the dress I will wear to the perfume festival. It was given to me by Binus. He asked me to dress like his grandmother who died a century ago. Don't worry. When a crazy queen wears something too pretty, it doesn't suit her, said Arnoa. But it's not like you're crazy. Why do you keep saying that? Asked Belle. What else would you call me? My husband has been living with his mistress since our first day of marriage. I'm nationally famous for being crazy for falling in love with actor Rick Ravier. On top of that, I just recently kicked out my mentor, replied the girl. But you're human, so you have every right to be offended or angry at someone, exclaimed Belle. Okay, I won't call myself crazy anymore, and I'll try not to do any more crazy things, promised Arnoa. Can only titled aristocrats get an invitation to this ball? Asked Belle to the girl. Yes, you're right. Only aristocrats or their relatives can attend this event, replied Arnoa. By the way, you're late. I've already decided on a partner for tonight, but I haven't left you out either. I've found you a date, said Binus to his wife. Arnoa was approached by Binus's distant relative, Marquis Robert Dane. What a nightmare! She will have to endure the touch of that lascivious man, the ladies present whispered. Perhaps Her Majesty can't dance? Is it not because of your rudeness that the king has found such a tender and affectionate lover as Lalisa? Well, I will correct your harshness, said the Marquis to the queen. When young ladies meet a real man, they can no longer resist, just like you are now. I will be your dancing partner tonight. The Marquis began to shamelessly touch Arnoa's face and neck. The girl couldn't bear to be treated so disrespectfully, so she slapped the Marquis's hairpin with all her might. The Marquis howled in pain. Disarming an unsuspecting opponent is easy. You don't have to be a man to do it, Arnoa exclaimed. Not only are you a cold woman, on top of everything else, you're also a bully, shouted the Marquis. Arnoa stepped on the Marquis's foot with all her might. What do you think you're doing? King Diran asked his consort in an angry tone. Wasn't the Marquis the first to disrespect the Queen? Arnoa clarified. It was just a joke. Why are you overreacting to everything? You are the truest of lunatics. Banus was indignant. Well, then punish me if I made any mistake. Shrugging her shoulders, the girl said, Am I really nothing to you? I trusted your family, and this is how it turned out. "Let's see if you can really be so stubborn all the time," exclaimed the king. The servant standing on the second floor poured a bucket of water on the queen. Suddenly, Bel walked up to Arnoa. He covered the girl with his cloak, thus protecting her from the water flying from the second floor. "Who are you anyway? Don't you know you can't touch royalty without her consent?" Baina shouted. "I was just protecting my dance partner," replied Bel. "Your Majesty the Queen, forgive me for being late. As I promised, I will accompany you this evening." Bel gently kissed the girl's hand. "This will be my gift to you." Bel held out to the girl the rose he had taken from her room earlier. When Arnoa touched the rose, it immediately changed its color. A moment later, and the girl's dress became completely different. Those present in the banquet hall gasped in surprise. "Are you crazy? Why did you do that?" asked Arnoa in a whisper. "Don't you like it?" asked Bel in an offended voice. "What's that got to do with it? Why are you using magic in public?" Arnoa became indignant. "You don't have to worry about that. I wasn't using magic. I was using a normal artifact. I've already told you that I'll be accompanying you all this evening," said Bel, putting his arm around the girl's waist. Arnoa had to give in. She suggested Bel to take a walk around the garden. "Why did you decide to help me?" asked Arnoa to the wizard. "You asked me for protection yourself, don't you remember?" Bel removed the black mask from his face. It immediately shattered into tiny particles in the air. "There's nothing dangerous about just being doused with water. Why did you decide to get in the way? If you had stayed out of the way, I would have reinforced my image as a crazy person. Maybe you helped me to prevent a divorce?" the girl asked. "If that's what it looks like to you, I won't change your mind. Think what you want," replied Bel to the girl. "I'm just furious. This is crazy as hell. Hey, answer me one question. What do you think the queen looked like yesterday?" asked Binus to his secretary. "She was beautiful yesterday," replied the secretary. "Idiot, that's not what I'm asking you at all. Did you see how she behaved? What did she allow herself to do? Where is it seen that the queen is accompanied by someone else when her consort is standing right in front of her? We need to find out who the masked man is." The king roared angrily. "Could it have been the Earl of Lurk?" suggested the secretary. The king replied to him that such a thing could not be, as he had known the earl since he was a child, and so would surely recognize him. "Most likely you don't know yet, but yesterday the earl's estate and his title were redeemed," narrated the secretary. "You mean to say that the fourth largest estate was bought out by some person?" Banus was surprised. "I realized my consort is intentionally doing this. She wants me to be jealous of her. It became difficult for her to torment Lalisa, so she switched to me. So it was the same with that actor. What a pathetic woman she is after all." An excited butler piled into the study and announced that a carrier pigeon from Kesman had arrived. It turned out that the Archduke of Aciliae was recruiting a special forces unit. Binus knew that Archduke Aciliae's special squad was an elite unit of troops formed directly by the Archduke. The soldiers of the squad served as a means of getting rid of those who got on the commander-in-chief's nerves. These soldiers acted as the vanguard. "Do you know if the emperor personally issued this decree? Could it have something to do with the queen?" Banus asked the butler. "That's what worries me. The Archduke has no reason to threaten us. Even if His Majesty Luciano and Queen Arnoa don't get along, they are still brother and sister," replied the butler. "I also find it disturbing that in 2 years of marriage, you have failed to win the love of your consort." "Well then, it is time to act," said the king with a sly smile. "And why did you put that oil on my hair?" Arnoa asked the maid. The maid answered her that it was the king's order. "This oil is used daily by Lalisa's maid of honor. If you put anything else on my body that maid of honor Lalisa uses, I will have my hands chopped off." Arnoa warned. "Then I will leave. I will not disturb you," said the maid and hurriedly left the queen's chambers. After a while, the king entered Arnoa's bedroom. He was holding a red rose in his teeth. Seeing her consort like this, Arnoa was shocked. "Why have you come to my bedroom? Why are you wearing one robe?" asked Arnoa to her husband. How disgusting it all looks. It's just awful, Arnoa thought to herself. Let me fulfill all your wishes today, said Binus. And why are you looking at me so surprised? Your abuse of Lalisa, those incidents with the other men, isn't that what you've been striving for? Admit it. You've always wanted to possess my body. Besides, it's time for us to think of an heir. Suddenly, a cat ran up to Banos and jumped high into his face. The king wailed exhaustedly. Snowball, stop it! Don't touch that man! Arnoa asked. She held out your hands to the cat. He immediately jumped on her chest. Listen carefully, your majesty. If I see you like this again, you will suffer even the same fate as the Marquis of Dane, warned the girl. You mean you will break my foot? Clarified the king. Maybe a foot, maybe a neck. I'll see according to my mood. As for the heir, make it with someone else, replied Arnoa. Crazy wench. The king muttered and left his consort's room. You can turn back into a human again. I'm sure no one else will enter this room, said Arnoa to the cat. No sooner Arnoa let go of the cat than it turned into Belle. Belle gently hugged the girl. Arnoa did not resist. She had gotten used to the wizard over the past few days. Answer me. Why did you attack Binus? I thought you said you couldn't kill or harm the next in line to the throne, being an emissary of the emperor. What has changed? Arnoa asked. I can't use magic on these people. Scratching was never forbidden to me, replied Belle. I'm beginning to think more and more that you are trying with all your might to prevent my divorce. Of course, it's to your advantage that I lose. Then you can take my soul stone, Arnoa exclaimed. Look, haven't you never heard of the fickleness of wizards? I only ever do what I want to do. My desires change often. I did it because I felt like scratching the king's haughty face. I didn't break the pact between the wizards and the ruling family. Luca darted into the thicket of the forest with all his paws. For hours now, he had been pursued by hunters. Damn raccoon! Venus shouted and rushed after the raccoon. Your Majesty, don't worry. Not every man can catch such a ferocious beast. Hadn't we better pick some other target for you? Asked the king to his knight. Left the good prey behind and went after the raccoon. You just wasted your nerves and used up all your arrows, grumbled the king's secretary. Shut up, you're too loud, shouted the king, grabbing his secretary by the scruff of his shirt. Your Majesty, please calm down. The knights pulled the king away from his secretary. What on earth is going on here? In the beginning there was that rabid cat, and now there's an insolent raccoon. Are they all mocking me? Venus thought irritably. When Lalisa found out that the king had gone to see his consort, she forbade him to enter her room. The girl had been crying for several nights in a row. And why is it only my wife who has such a grudge against me? What's wrong with me wanting an heir with imperial blood in his veins? By the way, why haven't I heard from Lalisa? Does she not want to give me an heir either? A raccoon ran up to the king and snatched the flask from his belt and ran off into the forest again. Did you see that? That damn raccoon just stole my flask! Shouted the king. It was the first time Arnoa had been invited to a royal hunt. Is this your first time participating in a hunt? I've never seen you here before, and I hunt with the king quite often. The approaching Lalisa boasted. I participated in hunting when I lived in the imperial castle as well as the duchy of Rickle, narrated Arnoa. So you mean you know how to shoot a bow? Asked Lalisa. I would like to confess to you that I was the one who taught His Majesty archery. It was even before you arrived in the kingdom of Dirhan. How silly. Even if she brags about her intimacy with Banos every day, it won't hurt me since I don't care at all. Apparently, Lalisa got really angry because of the rumors about the king visiting my bedroom. Arnoa thought. If he had no other teachers, you would know the true value of your skills. It has recently come to my attention that your apprentice has just used up all his luck on a fight with a raccoon, said Arnoa to Lalisa. Well, since you believe that you are far more skilled with the bow than I am, I suggest you compete with me in strength. As a matter of fact, I once competed with the royal guard and got the upper hand, Lalisa exclaimed. Let's do it this way. The one who catches the most game wins. If you catch an animal larger than a rabbit or stick at least one arrow in it, I will recognize your skill." "And what is your recognition worth? Better already than apologize for your past behavior," asked Arnoa. "Apologize? Why should I apologize to some gray mouse?" Lalisa thought in surprise. "Fine, Your Majesty, let it be as you wish. But if I win, you will do the same. You will apologize to me for what you did to me and my mother. So I have to hit an animal larger than a rabbit with one arrow, am I correct? Don't you think that condition is a bit silly? A larger target is much easier to hit," Arnoa remarked. Arnoa drew the bowstring and aimed the arrow at Lalisa. "Your Majesty, wait. Have you really decided to hunt me? Don't you fear the wrath of the king?" Lalisa asked in a frightened voice. "And what will he do to me?" asked Arnoa with a chuckle. "Your Majesty, please spare me," screamed Lalisa. "But you made those conditions yourself. You are well aware that I am not a knight or a soldier. I cannot hunt in the forest alone. And since I have no way to catch a beast in the distance, I have no choice but to catch someone nearby," said Arnoa. "Please calm down, Your Majesty. You seem to have gotten too caught up in the game," exclaimed the knight standing next to Lalisa. "If you don't shut up now, I will shoot you," Arnoa warned. An arrow whizzed by Lalisa's side. Turning her head sideways, the girl noticed that the arrow had slammed into a boar brought in by the hunters. "I hope this boar will do well. I would like to point out that it is much bigger than a rabbit," said Arnoa. "And now that I have won, it is time to keep my promise. I expect an apology from you." "I apologize, Your—" Lalisa rolled her eyes and fainted. "Lalisa, what happened again? What has the queen done to you again?" shouted Binus, bursting into his lover's room. "Her Majesty pointed a bow at me and threatened to shoot me. She mocks me all the time," wailed the girl with loud sobs. "Why has the queen, who has been quiet and practically invisible all this time, started acting like this?" Binus thought to himself. "Your Majesty, here's the thing. There's a suspicion that Lady Lalisa is pregnant," said Dr. Rudes. "Is it true Lalisa is carrying my child under her heart?" rejoiced the king. "Your Majesty, you and I are going to have a child. It is the child of the royal family of Dirhan," Lalisa exclaimed joyfully. "Arnoa, I am aware of all your misdeeds. I will no longer stand by. From this day forward, I forbid you to leave the room. I also forbid you to see anyone," shouted Binus, burst into his consort's room. "I will order the servants to give you no food or water." Binus had high hopes that in a few hours his consort would be begging and pleading for mercy. It was unlikely she would last long without food and water. Going to the door, Arnoa tried to open it. The door yielded to me. The girl guessed that she had indeed been starved. Arnoa decided to ask Belle for help. The wizard began to bring her food and water on a regular basis. "You claim this room will be locked for a while, yes? Then you don't have to worry about it being noticed," said Belle. He walked over to the window and swung it open wide. A raccoon climbed up the wall into the room. "Are you saying that the raccoon I saw on the hunting grounds is your apprentice?" Arnoa gently stroked the raccoon's head. "Stop pretending to be an innocent animal. Quickly report to me everything you've learned," demanded Belle. Luca took on the appearance of a human and bowed before the queen. "There are some stories that have come to us from Kesman. If you remember, that is where Archduke Acilier and the Duchess are waging war. It seemed to me that the Duchess was deliberately delaying the war." Luca began to narrate. "Only during the fighting, the imperial family will give the Archduke an unlimited amount of material resources. If you think of it that way, the imperial family is even more of a problem than the same Diran king. Luciano gave everything the Archduke needed, but he still killed him." Arnoa muttered thoughtfully. "It has also come to my attention that not too long ago, the commander-in-chief of the Imperial Army created a special squad. Entering this squad is like being sentenced to death," narrated Luca. "It is said that King Durhan's soldiers can often be found in this squad. There is speculation that the Archduke plans to break the king's spirit and make him the next candidate for emperor. It's been over a week since the emperor's death. How this will end is completely unknown." People are saying that a special unit recently launched a military operation, but suffered heavy losses. I've also heard that Kesman is somehow connected to the Imperial Army. What did you say? She doesn't even think of apologizing? But it's already been 3 days. What has she been eating all this time? Banus exclaimed. The maids tried to talk to the queen, but she told them she was fine and asked them to leave. The maids note that the queen's voice was quite energetic. Narrated the secretary. What on earth is going on? How can this even be happening? She's not a witch who can exist without food and water, is she? Her body should have weakened after a long hunger strike. Maybe she's just pretending that she's doing well? Binus asked. I'd really like to starve her for a few more days, but it would be problematic if she dies. If the Emperor suddenly finds out that the Queen didn't die from a fatal illness, but from starvation, he'll definitely wipe me out. Your Majesty, trouble. A letter has arrived from Kesman. It says that all the members of the special unit you created have been captured and executed by the enemy, the butler said in a loud voice. Another trouble has come from whence one would not expect. I'm sure the family members of the fallen knights will surely demand an explanation from me, and the aristocracy won't be able to ignore it either. Is this really all the Emperor's shenanigans? Grumbled Binus. I put the Emperor's daughter on the Queen's throne and surrounded myself with Lalisa's love. Is there anything wrong with that? I was certain that this marriage would be my salvation. Now I am bound hand and foot. Your Majesty, this is unthinkable. Out of the troops Diran sent, 20 men died a senseless death. This cannot be allowed. The nobles were outraged. But the Diran kingdom has always served His Majesty the Emperor faithfully. How can he do this to us? Lord Violence asked. I am also puzzled by the Emperor's behavior. The position of the Emperor's brother-in-law seemed more like shackles to me, grumbled Binus. Why don't you consider divorce? Is there any benefit left from an alliance with Her Majesty the Queen? Asked Countess Dia. But I'm not sure the Emperor would approve of my divorce, Banus admitted. I'm sure the Emperor is a reasonable man. If you can come to an agreement, and if he realizes that there are enough grounds for a divorce, he will definitely give you permission to dissolve your marriage, said Countess Stea. But the Queen's dowry is a lot of money for Dirhan. In the event of a divorce, she can demand that a whole carriage of gold be returned to her, mumbled Binus. I will summon all the scholars of the country, and we will study the law properly. There must be a way not to return the dowry to the Queen, exclaimed the Count. You are right. Every law has a loophole. With a cheerful smirk, Binus said. Meeting the Queen in the royal garden, the maids of honor bowed low before her. One person didn't say hello to me after all, the Queen remarked. Greetings, Queen, the Countess Estea hissed through her teeth. How are your wrists? Hopefully not sore by now, Arnoa asked the Countess. And how have you been, Your Majesty? I have been informed that you have been locked in your room for unworthy behavior. You have been guarded and starved for 3 days. Today is the first day you have been allowed out, replied the Countess. Strange. She has been locked in a room for 3 days, without food or water. Could her face have gotten any ruder after that? The Countess thought to herself, His Majesty is not so severe. My confinement has been comfortable. From your daughter, and I even received an apology for past rudeness, said Arnoa. What on earth are you talking about? On the hunt you threatened me, a pregnant woman with an arrow! Outraged Lalisa. You've got it all wrong. I was just aiming at a boar. It was no one's fault that he was behind you, said Arnoa, looking somewhere off to the side. I used to behave politely out of pity for you, but don't even dream of that now. I no longer wish to do business with you, so get out of my way, demanded Lalisa. And I'm not going to. I walked across the bridge first, but you climbed it next. So get out of the way yourself, replied Arnoa. How dare she speak to me like that? I am, after all, His Majesty, the King's darling and his beloved. She seems to have forgotten that already. Lalisa thought irritably. she decided to hit the queen's most sore spot. By the way, about that black diamond that will adorn my tiara. The king said such a beautiful thing should shine on my head. He gave me that diamond the other day. Also, he melted down your wedding rings. He made these wonderful earrings out of them. That's the difference between you and me. No matter what you do, you can't change anything. Ancestry is nothing compared to the love of a king. Do you really think so? Arnoa asked the girl. The king gave me a black diamond the other day. Today, he presented me with this ruby necklace. If I wanted to, I could take everything you have from you. Although, there is nothing left to take from a woman who is not loved. Lalisa replied, There are some things in the world you shouldn't touch, or you'll look self-serving. But you're not likely to understand what I'm trying to tell you. Let us end for this our conversation, asked Arnoa. What is that hanging around your neck? Is it really that cat's eye? Why did I only notice it now? Where have you been hiding it all this time? Lalisa asked. Give me that pendant and I'll let you through. You don't have to push. That pendant will eventually come to me anyway. Also, I can jump off this bridge right now and then say it was you who pushed me off. You already know whose child is under my heart, don't you? And if anything happens to me, His Majesty won't leave you alone. On top of that, think of what people will say about you. They'll think you hurt me because you were jealous of your husband. Lalisa, you are the truest genius. I just now realized what I need to do next. Thank you for the tip, mumbled Arnoa. Lalisa, I hope you can swim after all, and if you don't, that's your problem. Arnoa walked over to Lalisa and grabbed her arm tightly. Wait, Your Majesty, you've got it wrong again! Lalisa wailed frantically. Arnoa shoved the girl in the chest. Tumbling over the railing, Lalisa fell into the water. Lady Dana, Lady Daphne, and the Countess cried out fearfully. No, unequivocally, I'm in a great mood today. Smiling blissfully, Arnoa muttered. Lalisa, are you saying that the Queen really did push you into the water? I trust your word, but I find it rather hard to believe it, Binus admitted. I'd like to point out that the pond is shallow, so it's extremely hard to drown there, and if you had remained calm, you wouldn't have swallowed the water. The king's secretary remarked, Get out of here, you filthy puppy! You've never once said anything intelligent, shouted the king. Lalisa, pay no attention to the words of this empty-headed jerk. For what it's worth, I'm thankful to God that nothing happened to our child. But what next? You know very well yourself that the Queen has tried to kill me several times. Surely she will try it again. Your Majesty, weren't you going to divorce her? Asked Lalisa through her tears. Isn't the fact that she tried to kill me a good reason for a divorce? You see, it's not that simple. Your father and I never found a way to keep us from paying back the Queen's dowry. I've already used up all that money. I just don't have anything to give back, Binus admitted. Binus didn't want to tell the girl that the lion's share of the Queen's dowry had gone to her gifts. Even the pond she had fallen in had been built with the same funds. And if we get rid of her in any other way, there shouldn't be a problem, right? There's a possibility of the Queen being harmed by ill-wishers, right? Lalisa inquired. I certainly expected something like that. But this ruse has turned out to be extremely worthless. Did the Count really think that increasing the number of mercenaries would have any effect? Belle muttered. It took him a few minutes to deal with the 4 mercenaries. He sent assassins to me again. Is he really not thinking of announcing a divorce? Maybe he doesn't want to part with my dowry? Well, I might as well share, Arnoa thought to herself. Of course it wasn't my decision. All the property left to me by my mother, Empress Anastasia, Luciano sent as my dowry. And of course Binus wants to keep that gold for himself. I'm more than sure. Binus thinks that if he can't return the dowry, if he divorces the princess, he won't be able to escape the Emperor's gaze. It's been a little over 10 days now since Belle notified me of Luciano's death. If I don't divorce my husband within 3 days, he will become emperor. I wish I had a little more time left. Congratulations, Belle. It looks like you've won. Please restring my soul stone as beautifully as possible, asked Arnoa. One consolation, along with the soul stone, I will give up half of my life. I won't have to live my whole life as a queen and die in old age. Thought Arnoa collapsed on the bed. The girl suddenly realized that Belle never answered anything. Belle, isn't that something you enjoy? Arnoa asked. Not really, Belle answered honestly. Well, why do you say that? Don't you want my soul stone? Asked the girl. And I also told you that my desires change all the time. Right now, I want to see you on a throne with a crown on your head. As the master of the magic tower, I am ashamed to be the messenger of an emperor less capable than Luciano, replied the wizard. The soul stone of a member of the Kaishian family is certainly valuable, but such a sight is clearly not worth it. Oh, and the transaction itself with a non-mage is nothing more than sporting interest to me. You mean you've decided to help me? Arnoa clarified. If we come up with some realistic option, then yes, I will help you. I would like to remind you that I am still unable to harm the king with magic. It's not like I can kill him. I can't even lie to him. And that won't change until a new emperor is declared, replied Belle. What's in it for you in all this? Arnoa inquired. The person I want on the throne will be the person I want there, admitted Belle. Belle went to Banis's room to assure him that the emperor had no objection to King Durhan and his wife divorcing. Also, he was fine with the dowry staying with Banis. Yes, sometimes that happens. It was a false pregnancy. I will report it to His Majesty immediately, said Dr. Rudes. No, wait, shouted Lalisa, not letting the doctor leave. She grabbed Rudez's hand tightly. Lalisa was afraid that if the king found out she had a false pregnancy, he would immediately abandon her. The estate of her father, Count Estea, was threatened to be seized, as it became known that they regularly hired assassins. I'll give you 3 days to gather your wits. I can't help you any further. And even if I get fired because of this, I have to tell the king the truth, said Dr. Rudes, pulling out her hand. Banis, confident that he no longer needed to return the dowry, told Lalisa about his conversation with the wizard. She, in turn, decided not to waste the moment. Lalisa began to hurry the king with his divorce. The divorce process, which was originally supposed to take 10 days, with Lalisa's fierce support, was finalized in just 24 hours. Upon entering the throne room, Arnoa noted to herself that the king had gathered too many witnesses. This is the first time I have ever been so honored in Dirhan, the girl noted to herself. Approaching the king, Arnoa bowed low to him. Kneel, ordered Banis to your consort. Arnoa looked at her husband irritably, but obeyed nonetheless. I am King Banis Dirhan, announcing my divorce. Arnoa, you are no longer Queen of Dirhan, and there is no place for you in the palace henceforth. Finally, this whole nightmare is over. I have been granted my long-awaited freedom. I have been dreaming of it for years, Arnoa thought. Banis tossed his former spouse a certificate of dissolution of marriage. And since you and I are now officially divorced, then I don't need to be polite anymore. Thank you for ending all this. I want to confess that I've been through a lot during my marriage, Arnoa exclaimed. Arnoa summoned Bela to declare her empress. From Banis, she demanded that he return her dowry. Your Majesty, I beg you, rest in Dirhan for a few more days. Why should you rush home? I promised to throw a banquet in your honor. Banis folded his hands pleadingly. He didn't know where he could get a carriage of gold. Ugh, it's disgusting to look at, Arnoa thought with disgust. You'll just notice. The best chefs, dancers, and musicians in the country have gathered here. The chef comes from a family that has been working only for royalty for generations, Banis exclaimed. Strange, being the queen of Diran, I have never once tasted his food, Arnoa muttered thoughtfully. Banis was covered in cold sweat. Now it was not his humble consort who sat before him, but the empress. If she didn't like something, she could punish him, and very severely at that. All right, let's keep the chef as a member of the royal family. By the way, you said you were going to marry Lalisa, am I right? Arnoa asked her ex-husband. Your Majesty, there has been some misunderstanding. I thought this woman was carrying my child. Shouldn't the man be responsible for it? Mumbled Binus. It turns out the king has always had a greater sense of responsibility to his mistress than to his wife. It would be glorious if you treated your lawful spouse the same way, Aroa remarked. I have been cruelly deceived. Lalisa and Dr. Rudas lied to me about the pregnancy. If they had been telling the truth from the beginning, it wouldn't have come to this, shouted Binus. It's all her fault! Binus jabbed a finger in Lalisa's direction. Wow, he tried his best to pretend to be in love, and now he's ready to sacrifice his fling to me. How amusing it is to watch after all, Aroa thought. Your Majesty, how dare you say that to me after all that has happened between us? Asked Lalisa in a hurt voice. Shut up and kneel before the Empress, demanded Binus from the girl. Sobbing quietly, Lalisa knelt down in front of Aroa. That's enough. I don't want to look at it anymore, said Aroa. But after all, this woman is the one to blame for me realizing too late how much I love you. I even felt jealous when I saw you socializing with another man at the ball. Binus knelt down in front of the Empress. Your Majesty. No, beloved Aroa. Marry me again. Binus gently touched his former consort's hand. He reached up with his lips to kiss the girl's hand. No way! Aroa exclaimed, pulling her hand out. Think carefully, Your Majesty. You have no experience in government at all, after all. In this bloody political arena, a kind and naive person like you will fall prey to intrigue and lose everything you have in no time, Binus warned. You think I am kind and naive? And not so long ago you called me crazy, reminded Aroa to her ex-husband. I believe you should accept my offer. Thanks to my experience, I can understand anyone's thoughts just by looking at their face. Your Majesty needs such a person. Let's forget this misunderstanding and let go of old grudges. Binus continued to speak. Are you making fun of me? That you take the place of the King of Dirhan is a tragedy not only for me, but for all of Dirhan. Shouldn't someone who sees through people be angry about being so easily deceived? Aroa asked. And how could I doubt the doctor's words? As punishment for this woman daring to deceive me and Your Majesty, I will strip her of her position as court physician, Binus promised. That's the right decision. I wanted to take Dr. Rudes to the Imperial Palace anyway. And you're right. A naive person like me does need someone on hand. That girl is smart since she was able to deceive the wise king, said Aroa. Stop all this buffoonery. Just give me back my dowry. How nice it is to come home in a carriage filled with gold, Aroa exclaimed. You said you would not kill Count Estea, but after all, he has done so much. He should not be left alive, noted Belle. But after all, he will stay in the kingdom of Dirhan, and I will live in the Empire. He won't be able to hurt me any more. By the way, it's already over. I've become Empress. Now you are free from your obligations, said Aroa. Yes, you are right. Now I can go back to my direct duties, replied Belle. Please don't go back to the Magic Tower. Better come to the Imperial Palace, asked Aroa. And why would I go to the palace? Asked Belle. If the ruler of Purin and the master of the Magic Tower gather in one place, the nobles won't be able to unite, and thus won't give me any trouble. Besides, people outside the Empire tend to reject wizards, answered Aroa. And the second reason you should move to the Imperial Palace is that you'll be much more comfortable there. If you come to a gathering of aristocrats as a lord, it will be to both of our advantage. It will be to your advantage, but for me it's one mess, Belle grumbled. By the way, have you had time to study the politics of the Empire yet? After all, you're supposed to be running it. Thanks to my mother, I know a great deal. She once taught me even what only emperors are taught, Aroa replied. Be that as it may, I won't be able to live in the capital permanently. On top of that, I need to get into the Magic Tower, said Belle. Did something happen there? Asked Aroa. Belle looked at the girl angrily. There were things she shouldn't know. Aroa realized she had asked a stupid thing. Of course, she wanted the wizard to be by her side all the time, protecting her, but he had completely different plans. Arnoa decided that she would not persuade him anymore. She would act on her own.